My boss stole credit for my work and bragged about owning me. So I weaponized his own metrics, made him fail his audit, and let the company fire him with receipts he signed himself. I never planned to become the kind of guy who plots revenge with spreadsheets, but if you work in corporate long enough, Excel becomes both your weapon and your therapist. I'm a 31-year-old operations engineer at a mid-sized SaaS company, the type that builds software to track other companies' productivity. That irony won't be lost on you by the end of this story, I promise. My boss, Blake, was one of those MBA cliches who wear Patagonia vests, carry a Stanley mug everywhere, and call themselves leaders because they know how to schedule meetings. He was obsessed with visibility, metrics, dashboards, and anything that could make him look like a visionary in front of upper management. The kind of guy who says words like synergy and impact without blinking. I'd been under him for a little over a year, and during that time I'd watched him claim credit for ideas, throw people under the bus for his own mistakes, and weaponize feedback to make you doubt your competence. He never shouted. He didn't need to. He had this calm, smirking way of making you feel small, like he was doing you a favor just by allowing you to exist on his team. The final straw started with something small. I built a new operations process that cut our incident resolution time by more than 2 hours. It was one of those elegant fixes that made everyone's life easier. I even documented it perfectly, wrote a playbook, created a training guide, and shared it with the team. A month later, we had a department meeting with the execs. Blake presented the process as his own idea. Not just like, we did this, but I designed this framework. He literally said that line. I sat there in the back of the conference room with a fake smile while people clapped. I confronted him later in private. I didn't even come in angry. I said, "Hey, I saw the presentation. You didn't mention the team or me. It's not a big deal, but maybe next time." And he cut me off mid-sentence. He looked right at me, tilted his head like I was a dumb intern, and said, "I own your output. That's what leadership is. You're compensated for your execution. I'm compensated for vision." I said nothing, just smiled and nodded. But inside, something clicked. If he owned my work, then he could own all of it. Every single little documented, time-stamped, auditable, reviewable thing. So I started playing his game. Slowly, carefully. I became the most compliant employee on earth. Every single thing I did, I logged. I followed every policy to the letter. I emailed summaries after every meeting. Just to confirm alignment, per your direction, I'll proceed with X. When he gave verbal instructions, I'd write back, recapping today's chat so we're on the same page. It sounds boring. It was. But it built a wall of receipts taller than his ego. I created a new dashboard, his favorite thing in the world, called it Leadership Overview. It tracked all the metrics he loved: incident response times, SLA compliance, customer satisfaction, audit readiness, everything. Each metric was tagged with an approver, and for anything strategic, the approver was him. It auto-sent a Monday digest to the executive team. He loved it at first, told me, "This is great visibility, man. You're really getting it." Then I started planting the seeds. I added a new category to the dashboard called Audit Readiness. It showed how many process steps had been completed correctly, things like rollback plans, documentation, and client communication. It wasn't meant to target anyone specifically. Until it did. See, every time Blake rushed something, he'd skip those steps. He hated paperwork. Thought policies were for people who need structure. Within a few weeks, his audit readiness score started slipping. Quietly, automatically, publicly. Meanwhile, I kept feeding compliance little pieces of candy. "Hey, I just wanted to make sure we're aligned before the next audit. Here's our current documentation." They loved me. I was their dream employee. Precise, early, detail-obsessed. They started CCing me on their checklists. They started copying my templates. They didn't realize I was setting the stage. Then Blake made his biggest mistake. Quarter end came around, and one of our major clients, Halcyon Systems, scheduled a surprise 3 a.m. resilience drill. We had a policy. On-call engineers get compensation or PTO for off-hours incidents. Simple, fair. Blake decided that looked bureaucratic. He canceled the rota and told everyone to just be available if needed. No pay, no time off. He literally said, "You belong to the mission." That's something cult leaders say before they hand you Kool-Aid. The drill went fine because my playbook existed. But Monday morning, people were exhausted, and when we asked about compensation, HR said we didn't qualify. Blake called it a mission-critical culture moment. That phrase made me want to walk into traffic. So I did what I always do. I documented it. I quoted the policy word for word and asked for clarification, politely, on a public thread. He ignored it. But HR didn't. They flagged it for discussion. That's when I realized this company survives on compliance, and compliance is a double-edged sword. The next week, we had a pre-audit meeting with the internal compliance team. I showed up early with coffee and charm. "Hey guys, just wanted to make sure we're in good shape for the ISO audit next month. Here's the current change log. Here are the approvals. Here's the dashboard Blake wanted." They started flipping through pages and frowning. "I see a few emergency changes without rollback plans. Approved by Blake?" I smiled. "Yeah, he likes to move fast." They made notes, serious notes. Then they asked about client communications because a few incidents showed sent when they weren't. Again, all approved by him. I stayed neutral. I'm just here to align. They asked if we had documentation showing client acceptance of the risk. I said, "Not to my knowledge, but I can check with Blake." They told me to have him explain it in writing. I did. He said, "We use judgment calls. We're agile." I summarized that to compliance in an email. You could practically hear their pens hitting the checklist. While this was brewing, the dashboard kept updating automatically. Every Monday, the execs got their digest. MTTR down, SLA's great, audit readiness. Green for everyone except Blake. He was sitting at 61%. I never manipulated it. It was just the truth in chart form. Then came the client audit. The halcyon reviewer, a terrifyingly calm woman named Priya, asked to see the exact same incidents compliance had flagged. She asked why rollback plans were missing. Blake jumped in, smooth as ever. "We prioritize action over red tape. My team executes fast. We're nimble." Priya just said, "Understood. Can you show where your policy allows that?" He couldn't. She dropped the hammer gently. "This will be a moderate risk rating until corrected." Translation: we lose a performance bonus and look bad on renewal. After that, things started moving fast. Compliance sent formal findings. HR quietly reopened the overtime issue. The COO started showing up to our meetings again, and I just kept being helpful. I added one more automated rule to the dashboard. Anytime an audit item was overdue, it sent a reminder to the approver and their direct manager. He got 50 emails in 2 weeks. I also decided to bring a little art to the chaos. Remember how he said visibility matters? I gave him visibility. I duplicated our recurring check-ins for every project he owned and added the execs as optional attendees. It created thousands of calendar invites over the next quarter. All of them had subject lines like Leadership Visibility Sync and Quick Win Touchpoint. They clogged his schedule so badly his assistant started crying. He couldn't cancel them without admitting he didn't want transparency. Then I started printing the weekly change logs and dropping a copy on his desk every Friday at 4:55 p.m. with a sticky note, "Per your leadership mantra, we own outcomes." He started leaving early on Fridays. The printer didn't care. The real detonation came a month later. We had our quarterly business review with the execs. Blake was supposed to present progress. I shared the dashboard. Everything looked perfect until we hit the audit slide. Green, 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 then his section. Bright red, 63%. The COO frowned. "Why is your area so low?" He tried to blame bandwidth. She looked at me. "Can you explain?" I smiled. "We've implemented template enforcement. Numbers should improve as compliance increases." She said, "Good. I want full adherence by next quarter." After that meeting, he called me into his office. I swear his face was the color of expired yogurt. He shut the door, leaned forward, and said, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I said, "My job. You said to measure everything." He pointed at me. "You're making me look bad." I said, "No, the numbers are." He told me to delete the audit readiness section from the dashboard. I said, "I can't. It's part of the ISO control package now. Removing it would violate our data retention policy." Watching him realize he'd trapped himself in his own compliance fetish was pure serotonin. A week later, the external ISO auditor showed up. He asked for random documentation. Picked a folder at random, one of the ones I'd been dutifully printing and filing. Flipped through it. Every missing rollback, every skipped communication, all signed by Blake. The auditor asked, "Who approves these?" Compliance said, "The VP, Blake." He nodded. "Please ensure a corrective plan is submitted within 30 days or it escalates to a nonconformity." Said. That same day, HR forwarded me an email thread about leadership concerns. Anonymous complaints had started piling up. Apparently, I wasn't the only one tired of his cult of metrics. I didn't write them, but I definitely inspired them. By the next quarter, his score hadn't improved. Our COO set a meeting titled Ops Leadership, Interim Plan. I got the invite. He did too. She started by saying, "Blake, we've appreciated your energy, but our clients expect compliance. Dana will be taking over operational sign-offs while you focus on strategy." That's executive speak for, "You're benched." He nodded, pretending it was a promotion. 2 weeks later, HR announced he was pursuing new opportunities. His LinkedIn post said, "After an incredible journey driving operational excellence, I'm taking time to recharge and reflect." Translation: fired with a severance clause. When he left, his office was half empty, but his printer was still connected. Every Friday at 4:55, it printed a single page. Per your leadership mantra, we own outcomes. No one ever turned it off. He sent me one email afterward. "I know it was you." I replied, "It was the metrics." TLDR, my narcissistic boss stole credit for my work, abused overtime, and ignored compliance. I turned his obsession with visibility against him, documented everything, built a dashboard that made his failures public, fed compliance and HR just enough truth, and watched him drown in his own data until the company fired him. Petty bonus, his printer still auto-prints. Reminders of his incompetence every Friday.